One of the things I learned to do over the last 30 years of my life is write for the orchestra. And since most people don't have the opportunity to do that, I thought I'd let you into my head a little bit and let you understand what I think when I see an orchestral score. So we're going to turn this around and I'm going to let you take a look. This is a piece called Don Juan by Richard Strauss. And here's a little something you need to know, whether you read music or not, about how an orchestral score works. If you have never seen an orchestral score, this is probably a big, scary, crazy thing for you. But I can make it a little easier. I want you to imagine that each of these sets of 5 lines is a train track. And the train tracks are all going the same way. And all the trains are running on the tracks in the same direction. So these dots go this way, and they're happening at the same time as these dots, and the same time as these dots. So all these dots are happening at the same time. Then these dots join them, and that's how it goes from page to page to page. So that gives you a general idea of what this is. It's a bunch of instruments all playing at the same time. So what do I think when I look at this? Well, the first thing I think, if I know the piece, like I know this one, is where is it in the piece? Think about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. If you describe the moment that Goldilocks is sleeping in the bed, that scene means absolutely nothing outside of the story. Oh, there's a girl sleeping in a bed. But if you know where it is in the story and that she's about to be awoken by the three bears, that means that scene means something. And orchestration is there to emphasize a part of the story. So this is the beginning of the piece. And knowing that, I think about that when I look at this piece. Now, the first thing I think about is how loud this music is. And you can tell how loud it is with these little letters, FF. In music, FF means very loud. P would be quiet. And generally in the orchestra, everybody's playing the same. Sometimes you get it where one person's playing loud and the other's soft, but most of the time they're all playing loud. So I think, okay, this is music that's meant to be played loud. How is it being played loud? Well, the next thing I ask myself is who's playing? And I see that it begins with a bunch of violins and cellos, and then they continue, and then other instruments come in. All of these flutes and clarinets and the horns, but no brass yet, no trumpets or trombones. They come in right here. So all of a sudden now almost everybody's playing. So it starts loud, gets bigger, and then it gets really big. Okay? The next thing I ask myself is, how are they playing? This double line here means usually the notes are going very fast. So I see these string instruments are playing really fast. And then here they kind of sit for a second. This open circle-y thing means that they sit on the note for a while. The single bar means they're going a little slower, really slow, and then super fast. And the same thing with these instruments here. So how are they playing? They're playing fast. They are going from very low to pretty high in a very short amount of time. That's the other thing. Where are they playing? If you play a violin really low, it not only makes a different note, but it has a different kind of sound. More mellow or more strident, depending on how you pull on the strings. When it's very high, it can be more rich, more powerful, or depending on how you play, more screeching. So there are no special instructions here to make the instrument sound screechy. So it's kind of going from a low place to a more alive, bright place until it gets right here where it's really, really bright. These instruments are generally in the middle of their range. They're basically where they usually are. So they can play loud, but there's no special effects. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking. Now, the last thing I do is I say within a group of instruments, what's going on. I happen to know from experience that all these instruments are doing more or less the same thing. And you can kind of see the design up, down, uppity up, down, uppity up, down, uppity up, down, uppity up. These 4 instruments, violin, viola, and cello, are all doing the same thing at the same time. And that's interesting because here not so much. These flutes and clarinets, they're kind of going the same way, but they're making different notes that sound good together. And that's the kind of thing I'm paying attention to. Once I've got all of that information in my head, I put it together like a jigsaw puzzle to give myself a sense of how it might sound. And of course, I can listen to a recording and I can figure out how it sounds that way, but it's more interesting for me to first try to hear it in my head. Now, I don't expect you to feel like you know how to orchestrate now after that very brief introduction. I just wanted to put you behind my eyes and let you see what I see. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to get a sense of what we just did. First, we looked at the big picture. Then we started going into smaller and smaller details. And once again, after we got all the details, we put the big picture back together. And this is a general learning strategy, which I'll show you again, hopefully, in mathematics and in writing and other things. It's the same way you can use to think about big, complicated things. I'll see you at the next video.